It's great to be able to see all these sort of new conversations. And one of the things that really excited me from what I've witnessed over the last few days is just having students in the space as well, bringing their youth and their energy to the conversation, and working with vice chancellors and provosts from all over the world, and how important it is for us to celebrate that young energy and that new perspective. And programs like this are really about that. Is how do we go out and recognize the talent out there, give them a platform, give them a stage, and probably most important, listen to them. I think something we haven't done enough, and create new dialogues which will ultimately lead to change and to something new, which I think we all believe we need, not only in this continent, in this country, but also across the world. So once again, welcome to the D School. Welcome to this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to the presentations. And I'd like to invite Irene, the Director of the Center of Governance and Change at IE University. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IE University, Madrid, Spain, it is also my pleasure to welcome you all to this Tech4Democracy Africa Venture Day. Tech4Democracy is an IE university-led global initiative embedded in the Summits for Democracy launched by President Biden in December 2021 that aims at leveraging technology to defend and promote democracy today and for future generations. We thank the US Department of State and Microsoft for their continued trust and support to help this initiative gain momentum. During this year of action of the summits, we have achieved immense progress together. Our Global Entrepreneurship Challenge has identified thousands of innovators and entrepreneurs whose technologies are actively contributing to the advancement of democracy across the world. The Global Challenge is coming to an end today after holding competitions in 4 other continents: Delhi for Asia Pacific, Stanford for North America, Bogota for South America, and Madrid for Europe. The winners have developed solutions in the field of big data to inform policymaking, electronic voting, or geolocation of human rights violations. Today's competition will feature organizations from South Africa, DevTouch and Legal Standpoint, from Tanzania, you are going to have to help me with that, on Gia na Democracia, from Ghana, FloodGates, and from Kenya, Uamuzi. They will compete for a spot in the grand finale in Washington, D.C. during the second Summit for Democracy against the other 4 continental winners. If we are running this competition in Cape Town today, it's thanks to the kind support of the Hasso-Platter School of Design Thinking, Africa University of Cape Town, and the proactive work of its amazing team, especially Richard Perez, director of the D School, Ferrar De Nicker, its communications and marketing manager, and Eliza Rapu, working at the heart of this great comms team. This Tech4Democracy Venture Day takes place, as Richard explained, under the umbrella of the 13th edition of IE's Reinventing Higher Education and Conference. It is a privilege to have been associated to this initiative, in which our esteemed President, Santiago Iñiguez, and the IE Foundation's General Director, Geoffroy Gerard, have been instrumental in driving it forward. There is no doubt that technology plays a significant role in the future of higher education. It is crucial to illustrate a democratic and liberal vision of technological development that upholds the values that explain us as a society: freedom, equality, inclusion, privacy, and transparency. This brings together like-minded communities, which is precisely one of the objectives of Tech4Democracy. The role of innovators and entrepreneurs who explore and apply the possibility of technology for the benefit of humankind and social good is key. Our warm acknowledgement also goes to the members of our renowned jury and, of course, the audience. We thank you all for coming here. And now it is my big pleasure to introduce you to Todd Haskell, Consul General of the United States in Cape Town. The floor is all yours, Todd.
Okay, I'll do it like that. Hey everybody, good afternoon. I'm Todd Haskell and I'm the Consul General of the United States here in Cape Town, and I'm really honored to be here today. I think this is a terrific event, and I'm really glad that it's in Cape Town, first because I get to be here, but also because I think it's a tribute to just how strong the institutions of democracy are here in South Africa, which is why I assume that South Africa was chosen. Digital technologies hold great potential for strengthening democracy and democratic processes, enhancing civic engagement, and promoting human rights. They improve the freedom of expression and information sharing, they engage people in a political process, and they enhance accountability and transparency. They bring voice to the voiceless. They shine light on inequities hidden and ignored for decades, and that's why we in the United States are so interested in working to expand the technology that can fill the gaps, help citizens, help activists, lawyers, and judges to continue to build their democracies and hold institutions accountable. But even so, as we talk about what the good things that technology can do, I think we have to recognize the growing trend in the misuse of digital technologies by governments to undermine core democratic principles. Global internet freedom has consistently declined over the past decade. Authoritarian regimes are increasingly using internet shutdowns to quash dissent, and they're using surveillance technologies for repression and to perpetrate human rights abuses. Anti-democratic forces are using disinformation campaigns to meddle with democratic elections, something we've seen in my own country, and to sow division and to undermine trust. We have to make technology work for and not against democracy. Governments, multilateral organizations, tech companies, and civil society must come together to renew our shared commitment to responsible, democratic, and safe technological development. And the United States is committed to being a part of that effort. In the Summit for Democracy's Year of Action, we're partnering with IE, the University in Madrid, and others to incentivize innovation and technologies that make it easier to advance democratic values. And we're grateful that IE is partnering with us in this grand challenge and that they've chosen to be here in Cape Town. Through this effort, we hope to showcase innovations that embed democratic values in their design and deployment, fighting misinformation, advancing government transparency. We know that technology can help advance the values that we hold so dear. I'm trying to talk as short as I can because I want to get to the pitches already, but I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the University of Cape Town's Hasso-Plattner School for creating this space. What a beautiful space. I had a chance to walk around it a little bit a few minutes ago, and I believe that next you're going to see a video with a message from Dr. Arati Prabhakar, from the Director of the White House Office of Science, Technology, and Policy, and a member of President Biden's cabinet. So we'll turn to her address, but after we show you that video, because we're all taking on introduction duties here, we'll hear from Khalik Dali from Microsoft. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing your ideas, and now we'll hear the video from a member of President Biden's cabinet, Dr. Prabhakar. Thank you.
Hello to everyone who's joining us today or virtually. My name is Arati Prabhakar, and I am Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. In December of 2021, President Biden hosted the Summit for Democracy, and in that room were more than 100 world leaders and activists, trade unionists, other members of civil society, academia, and industry, and the president asked them to strengthen the guardrails of democracy and to drive reforms to make transparent, accountable governments, because no democracy is perfect. It never happens by accident, but democracy must be renewed with every generation. The Summit for Democracy called on participants to commit to concrete ways to push back against authoritarianism, to fight corruption, and to promote and protect human rights. Most importantly, the initiative called on all of us to act in support of democracy, and that's what we're doing in the United States. To lead by example, we're committed to a series of actions outlined in the Presidential Initiative for Democratic Renewal. One of its 5 key pillars is advancing technology for democracy. The United States is committed to ensuring that the internet, artificial intelligence, and other technologies are developed and used in ways that support and reinforce democratic values by preserving our rights and treating everyone equitably. And I'd like to give you 2 examples. The United States embraces a vision of an internet that is open, free, global, interoperable, reliable, and secure. And related, we also recently released our blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights, which addresses biases and discrimination when algorithms are used. We are committed to protecting and respecting human rights online and across the digital ecosystem. To further turn our U.S. commitment into action, we want to incentivize innovation in technologies that make it easier to advance democratic values. And that's why the White House announced at the Summit for Democracy a series of international grand challenges on democracy-affirming technologies. These will allocate awards for those who build democracy-affirming technologies, for example, privacy-enhancing advancements. And we're therefore so pleased that IE University in Madrid took the initiative to run this series of Venture Day competitions as part of the Tech4Democracy initiative in partnership with the State Department through the U.S. Embassy in Madrid. This initiative aims to support global entrepreneurs who are developing these kinds of democracy-affirming technologies. The Venture Day today is a key step in powering this initiative. Its success depends on all of you to seize this opportunity and to contribute to this effort. When we bring together researchers and innovators and investors and entrepreneurs, we hope to see innovations built and advanced that embed democratic values at every stage of their development and use, from fighting misinformation to advancing government transparency. We know that science and technology can support the values that we hold so dear and drive us closer to our goals. Because we know way too well that technology is not inherently democracy affirming, we have to choose to build it and use it in ways that reaffirm democratic values. We have to choose to be participatory and inclusive by design. We have to choose to use it in ways that shield and advance privacy and civil liberties and civil rights. And we have to choose to apply it in ways that protect and promote human rights. It's up to us. For example, privacy-enhancing technologies can enable much more collaboration across entities and borders to help tackle shared challenges, from healthcare to climate change to corruption. And finally, developing technologies for democracy requires engaging with people around the world to make sure that innovation actually delivers and is designed for and tested by those who will eventually use it. And that's why it's so important for these venture days to take place in every region of the world and to harness your insights and creativity and entrepreneurship wherever you may live. We're currently in the year of action between the first and second Summit for Democracy. The time to act is now. The Technology for Democracy initiative offers entrepreneurs an opportunity to come together to ensure technology works for and not against democracy. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing your ideas.
Good afternoon. So I'm Khalik. I'm pleased to welcome you on behalf of Microsoft, one of the global sponsors of the Venture Day, as well as Tech4Democracy. I wish to thank IE University for the partnership and for being the primary driver of the initiative with us. I also wish to thank the Hasso-Plattner School, this beautiful school, and thank you for the tour of the school. And so design thinking is something that's close to my heart, and it's lovely to see that it's being embedded into your course content here. I'd also like to thank the US State Department for your support for this initiative. So as Microsoft, ensuring that technology is used in an affirming way in aid of democracy is something that's important to us as a company. It's important to me personally, and therefore our support for this initiative. Microsoft first started in 2018 to develop technologies to be supportive of initiatives. And so I would urge you, in the interest of time, to please go and bing the work that we've done for Tech4Democracy specifically. And you'll find all the activities and all the work that we've done there. The Ukraine conflict comes to mind. There's a lot that has taken place there, and I urge you to go and read up on some of the work that's taken place. Having said that, we do realize that the real drivers, the real change is going to come from the startup landscape, hence why we're here, and hence our support. We feel that startups will innovate, will drive faster than what bigger organizations can. And so as part of today's Venture Day, the finalists appearing here will get access to Microsoft's Founders Hub. As part of that, there will be access to, for example, credits of up to $150,000 worth of Azure credits that can be used by the various startups in aid of the work that they are doing. And so we couldn't be prouder to be a sponsor of this event and to continue supporting the various startups, and we look forward to seeing the outcome of today. With that, I think we've got one more speaker. No? That's enough. So we look forward to the rest of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, hola. Thank you very much. We indeed have one more speaker, and then we'll get on with the competition. I'm super excited to invite our keynote today, Melvin Lubega. Melvin is a tech entrepreneur. He's a VC fund leader. He's most notably the founder of Go1, an online learning platform that is used by governments and organizations across the world. And it's most notably and importantly the first South African unicorn. So Melvin, the floor is yours. Give a round of applause for Melvin.
No, thank you very much, Carlos. I feel like we've got options here, but I will follow those before me, although I feel like I'm slightly shorter. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think just programs like this have been absent from the ecosystem for so long. And it's so important to get together as entrepreneurs, as ecosystem partners that are building tech with a purpose. And so really proud to, one, be sharing my experience and thoughts on the topic, but also to be in the crowd supporting fellow entrepreneurs on their journey. When I was, not so many years ago, but I guess my beard may play me, my room was literally right across the road when I was at UCT on the SRC. And then we were also having similar arguments around democracy and what that means for a student in the school context. And so it's so great to be back at the school. When I was at UCT, this was probably the part of the walk down to lower campus that you ran because it was very dark and dingy. And so thank you to Richard, to Perez and the team for bringing light to this part of the campus as well. What I really want to achieve with my short address is, one, paint the picture of technology within an African context and what that means or doesn't mean for how tech can enable democracy. And then share some lessons from, I guess, my journey, or anecdotally so, in building a software company in a similar space. As Carlos mentions, by way of background, so went to UCT, proud. Studied actuarial science, was fortunate to do my master's abroad, did a master's in public policy, and then actually in technology. So it's great to have a segue of both, working at Oxford University. But following that, I did build a startup called Go1. And ultimately, we exist to help people unlock their positive potential through a love for learning. And our product can actually be likened to the Spotify for professional learning. Because something which I fully appreciated was that there's really great learning opportunities out there, but they aren't necessarily accessible to everybody, often because of cost or awareness. And I think that's something which is very true when you think about what does, democratic values and democracy and democratic freedoms look like. So for example, you turn 18, you get an ID, a driver's license, but you understand the constitution that goes with that. When they say youth don't vote, why don't they vote? Is it because they're apathetic? Social media says they aren't, but they don't fully understand what the electoral process looks like. And so often that gap of awareness and knowledge is actually some of the biggest chasms we have to actually cross as leaders to empower our societies. And so for us, I was always thinking through how to use education as a tool to unlock that potential, both in individuals and in society. And so we're proud today to offer our platform across 35 countries, and about every 1.2 seconds, someone in the world starts a course on our platform. And so we've tried to go very deep in our offering. And it's even in that journey, and now being more a venture investor, where we invest across African early stage startups, where we try to take those lessons and, almost to the points mentioned earlier, invest in entrepreneurs that actually want to change society. Because I think what will be very true, and I think Consular General also highlighted the point that technology isn't in and of itself democracy affirming. And so you can't assume because technology is there, therefore it enables some form of democratic freedoms and values. And so just being very intentional about thinking through that. And so if you look at Africa where it is today. Now, Africa is one of those things which it's either in favor or it's far out of favor and no one will come visit the country. And so I see a very international crowd here today, so I'm guessing we're in the positive cycle of African news, and that's really exciting for us. And I think the same thing is true for tech, where if you look at the last year from a technology perspective, it's probably one of the biggest years from investment in venture capital on the continent. We've had over $5 billion invested, which is arguably more than the 3 years before combined. But whilst there's strong growth, the actual aggregate is still fairly small. I mean, so IE is from Madrid in Spain. So last year, Spain alone did 5 billion. And so Africa as a continent from a venture capital perspective is the size of Spain, which speaks to not only the potential, but also the low base that one comes off. But it's a very exciting time to be in the ecosystem because people are building and developing and solving real problems through technology. And so whilst you see the juxtaposition of growth in technology and interest in technology, in the same vein, you ask yourself how the, let's call it the democratic outcomes appeared. And look, if you look at Africa's rap sheet, it's been, there's a saying, I think someone was describing the late Nelson Mandela's condition before he passed away, and it was described as critical but stable. And the statement in and of itself didn't say much, but I think when you think of Africa's journey with democracy, they're glimmering pieces of hope. I mean, you think of 2017, you think of Liberia, Sierra Leone, peaceful transitions given the base where they came from. Yet you see in other countries, there's still lots of human rights violations, and to the points raised earlier, tech being used as a tool to stifle democracy and freedom of speech. And so you've almost got this almost dichotomy that exists within Africa, and obviously as a continent, we aren't just one culture or one country. And it's so great that, and thank you to the team that organized the program, that you have entrepreneurs from across the continent. So it brings different perspectives into the conversation that we're having today as well. But that being said, Africa compared to national peers is not alone. If you think about other countries like Poland, Hungary, even more emerging markets, India, Turkey, and their democratic, let's call it, outcomes, they aren't as great. I think this really speaks to the point around partnership. No country or individual is an island. And I think we can all learn from each other in our journeys using tech for democracy. And so if we know that tech in and of itself isn't necessarily neither democracy affirming or not, it's not necessarily imbued with any particular objectives, the question then becomes, how do we as entrepreneurs, as policymakers, as business people, how do we enable and bolster tech to be democracy affirming? And so what I want to share is probably 3 lessons from my journey in thinking through how technology can be affirming. And it's not to say that venture and entrepreneurs are the only answer. The reality is that there are many players in the ecosystem, from public sector in terms of policy regulation and thinking through that. Something which you take for granted is basic things like in South Africa, your POPI, your cybersecurity. I mean, I was speaking to Zanye, who was on the panel earlier, and she works with a number of governments around the world asking how do they really participate in digital transformation in a responsible and democratic way. But in the same vein, you may ask yourself, if the regulators don't understand the emerging technologies that they're regulating, how are they able then to enable that or unenable that? I mean, So last week I was in Laguna Beach. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, hosted some leaders from around the world, from Asia, America, Africa. And the key question was, how do we ensure that future leaders understand the emerging technologies so they can actually use them as forces for good? And this is something which I want to lean on for entrepreneurs in sharing the lessons learned in that journey. And so there are three things. I think at a high level, because three things are important and it's good to summarize things. I think one is people, the other is product, and the third is partnership. And I want to just quickly touch on each of those from a holistic perspective. You know, when it comes to building a business, doing a partnership, writing policy, people are at the heart of everything. But if people aren't aligned with you in terms of the values that underpin what you're trying to build, you will never find alignment. And I think it's easy to be aligned on the problem you're solving, but also goes to how are you thinking about solving that problem. And so as entrepreneurs, I would often ask you to have the tough conversation with your co-founders, with your clients around values and what do they see success actually looks like in terms of what you're trying to pursue. Because often at the outset, everyone's excited. I mean, right now it's very sexy to be in technology. I remember when I left UCT, I studied actuarial science, and I said I want to become an entrepreneur. And guys were like, Marvin, don't struggle. My dad's a partner at the auditing firm. Will get you a job, like entrepreneurship, like you're better than this. Whereas now it's sexy. I mean, like it's really good to be like an entrepreneur. And don't let that take away from the core purpose and the values and what you're trying to build. And so I'd really say, think about working with people that align at the value level of what you're trying to achieve. I think if you take another step forward, you've got a great team, you're awesome, you're going for it, and you build a product. And you know, product can also be a service. I use the term journey in terms of what you offer to your customers in the end. But as I mentioned, no product is imbued with any particular sort of value. It's ultimately the way in which it's built. And so a good friend of mine when I was in postgrad, essentially her dissertation was around using machine learning and face recognition. And the reality is, whenever she had to build her models, very smart individual, Rhodes Scholar, she had to wear a white mask because she's Ghanaian, a Ghanaian Canadian. But effectively, she's a similar hue to myself. And because the algorithms were trained on people who are more Caucasian, they didn't pick up her face. And it's not that, you know, machine learning has a bias, but the data used to code your programs does create a bias. And so when you build our products, let's think through what that means from a democracy-affirming perspective in terms of, you know, freedom of speech and those elements that can often go to the wayside. And, you know, when you're early on in your journey, it's very easy to be, you know, very values-based and driven. But once you start seeing money, you're like, okay, well, do I let my platform be used for hate speech and so forth? And so I would almost say when you begin your product and your service, begin with the end in mind, but don't forget the beginning when you get to the end. I think particularly where we are in our journey, you know, in Go One, we've raised over 400 million and very proud to have Microsoft on our cap table as well, so shout out to Microsoft. But really, it's easy when you start raising capital to be pulled to the agendas of those with whom you're working with. And so I think as you build your products, be very intentional. And it's not only about building a product, it's like me saying, I built Twitter, it's freedom of speech, anyone can tweet. But if you don't put the controls in place and monitor that, it actually goes sideways, as you've seen in other instances. And so it's not only build the right product, but also continue to build and monitor to make sure the product achieves the outcome that you as entrepreneurs intended to have. And the final piece for me is partnerships, which I think is the most important. You know, I always like to channel my inner poet. So you can think of the 7th century poet John Doe. And one of his, you know, famous poems was, "No man is an island." And this is true now as much as it was then, in terms of the importance of collaboration. And was shared with us in the video as well, in terms of how, for us to succeed, we must collaborate across geographies, across industries, across disciplines. And so as you build your products, don't necessarily think about your own lens, but think about how can I use the experience I'm getting through this conversation here to unlock further potential in my business. So for example, today, we know that there'll be one winner who will go represent us in Washington, DC. And whilst it's one winner going forward, I would rather say that person going to Washington, DC is a link for the rest of us into the continent. And so don't see it as, oh, one person's gone, I'm just going to stay in South Africa and do my work, or stay in Zambia, but more so say, how do I focus on using that as a way to make, as we'd say, I guess colloquially, make the circle bigger. And so from that perspective, let's really be intentional in thinking through how do we find collaboration as opposed to competition, because easily we can compete ourselves away from our objectives, especially when you focus on the bottom line, which is unfortunate. And so I guess bringing that together, it's a pleasure to be here. This is obviously a preamble to a longer conversation. I think it's an important one that's been overdue. But ultimately, let's look for the ways in which we can, one, collaborate to use tech for democratic purposes, and something which we'll get great reward from. And so from that perspective, thank you very much, and to the entrepreneurs, all the best.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Melvin. Fantastic. Well, let's get this started. So I would like to invite the jury to come on stage, please. Andrew Bailey, Senior Manager of Innovation at the University of Cape Town. Buntu Majaja, the CEO of the South Africa Innovation Summit. Zanyue Ndatisi Asare, the CEO of Digital Illegal. Richard Perez, whom you know, Founding Director at the D-School. Vanessa Ramamjam, Program Manager, Solution Space at the Graduate School of Business here at the university. And last but not least, Dikatso Sepoti, International Facilitator at Nia Delta. My name is Carlos Lucatena. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for the Governance of Change here at our university. I will be asking a couple of questions to the jury so that they can introduce themselves and talk a bit about what their expectations of the competition are. And I would like to maybe start with Buntu, who has organized many of these, right? So Buntu, what do you expect from this competition? How do you feel this is different from the probably hundreds of other startup competitions that you have organized here in South Africa?
Thank you very much, Carlos. It's an absolute honor and pleasure. Good afternoon to everyone. We at this Innovation Summit essentially believe that entrepreneurs are the ones that build the continent, and that we exist to support them to do that. And so there's a saying that the tribe, the startup is built by the tribe as the child is raised by a tribe as well. And I believe that what we're doing here, taking perspectives from all over the world as a global program, solving grand challenges, is really in itself, being open-minded as well as being truly democratic in the sense of taking perspectives all around the world and solving grand challenges on a single platform. And so in believing that entrepreneurs are the one that build the continent, us supporting to do that is understand that everyone has a role to play, and that often in the African continent as well is that this is a gap that's being filled by businesses that can't be filled by governments often. And so I want to wish all the entrepreneurs the best today, and seeing how everyone is going to be plugging in us, really defining the narrative of the continent. And we believe that this is the century for Africa, and every entrepreneur is playing a role in building that. So I'm really excited to see how, from the angle of institutions, legal institutions, democratic institutions, entrepreneurs playing that role, which doesn't always happen. There's many challenges on the continent, but this is a gap that's very much needed. Thanks.
Definitely they can fill that role, but let me turn to Dikatso. Entrepreneurs can definitely fill that role, but how do you help them do that? How do you support entrepreneurs precisely in the African continent? How do you help them grow? How do you foster innovation here?
Thank you so much for that question, Carlos, and good afternoon to everybody that is here today. I think that's a very good question, and this question is actually best answered by the entrepreneurs that are here today. But there's a lot of movement that has been put in place, especially focusing on entrepreneurship education, that we've seen, over the years. I think at the beginning there was a whole focus around changing the mindset around people going into traditional workspaces and having entrepreneurship as a form of career option. And so that has taken place. There's a lot of programs that take place, in this day and age. The support that is also required. Melvin was speaking about VCs that are available and speaking about the 5 billion that has come to, the continent, and it's great, but I think greater support is required in that space as well. There's plenty of entrepreneurs, and I think they also sit in different pockets. Some sit at the ideation phase, so we've done great with the mindset development stuff. Then there's a huge leap where we've got the VC space, where the funding is trickling in, but it's there, and nobody's really focusing on that pipeline around validating the ideas that are there and getting to a point where people can commercialize at scale. So support across those different elements are important, and I suppose just looking at that triple helix, so making sure that policy also aligns in terms of helping the entrepreneurs that are there, making sure that even our households, mom and dad understands that I want to be an entrepreneur and I won't be a hustler. Entrepreneurship is a career that we can also really focus on, that can also unlock a lot of impact within society. So yeah, I'm sure there's lots of other points there, but those are the ones that really come to mind at this point in time.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm even thinking about the role of academic institutions, right, Richard? I mean, how can universities contribute to what Dikatso was just saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most students or the parents of the students send their children to university to get an education, to then go out there and get a stable job. But the realities of the world is that, even with education, the best education, you're not guaranteed of job placement. And so the role of the university having to start to look at itself in preparing youth for the future, and starting to look at entrepreneurship, or what Dikatso and I are working quite closely in the space, but entrepreneurial thinking. So really to say to students that we're not going to turn you into entrepreneurs, because we know some of you may not want to go out there, but let's at least teach you this way of thinking. And whether you then go out into the corporate world or whether you go in to start your own business, this mindset, this tenacity, this grit, this way of seeing the world and willing to experiment and to solve challenges is actually just part of your DNA. And I think universities have a critical role to play in that. And then the question is, what are the programs that the universities should be setting up? Because a lot of traditional academic faculties aren't geared to teach entrepreneurial thinking. They're there to specifically teach the traditional disciplines, whether it's engineering or law. So the university needs to start creating, first of all, spaces and places. I think physical spaces are important, where like-minded students can come together to start to work on ideas. Career services at the university is certainly starting to make a big role in that space. But then starting to bring this sort of mindset into curricula. And it's a role we play at the D School, but we're still on the fringes. We're not sort of in the heart of the curriculum. So I think the university is certainly starting to take it very seriously in looking at how we can bring entrepreneurial thinking into all the faculties across the board, and almost make it something that every first year should be exposed to. And let them make the decision whether they want to start their own business or just take this thinking into the corporate space. But I think it's our responsibility as an academic institution to create that enabling environment.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard. Andrew, you've been working on innovation and seed funding. Do you agree with this? Is there anything else we can do to help these young future leaders here?
Thanks. I think that really one needs to have sort of seed funding available to assist with developing ideas, moving things through. I think one of the things that has often been a problem, certainly within the South African environment, are the sort of fairly small amounts of money to initiate the business, start things up, and how difficult it is to get that sort of money. I think there are creative ways of doing it. I've heard of student-run venture funds where students actually act as the VC investors and invest in their peers' initiatives. I think ensuring that you've got that whole ecosystem that from a funding perspective can support the startups, it's really essential. I was chatting to people who were setting up a VC fund in London who are ex-African. They were from Zimbabwe. And one of the things that they were struck by is just the sort of quantum of money that we're managing to sort of invest in startups, sort of more deep tech startups coming from the university sort of research space, that it is a fraction of what is available in other environments. We also had experience of a university startup that was incorporated in Norway. And the thing that amazed us is that they had raised funding that we would anticipate that they would raise within, say, a 2 to 3 year period in 6 weeks. And it was grant funding, it was VC, it's so different. And I think that this is where we've got to get people satisfied with a bit more risk related that they'll accept more risk and get involved early on, because you need the belief to unlock the potential.
Great. And now with the difficult question, so which projects do you fund? So what is a democracy-affirming technology? How do you select the best ones, the ones with the most potential? So when you hear democracy-affirming technology, what do you have in mind? What is your understanding of this quite difficult term?
Yeah, I think when I was approached to be on the panel, my initial response was actually of trepidation rather than of excitement, because I think that coming from a communications background, coming from my experience in advertising, my initial sense is that technology is actually very dangerous. And in the wrong hands, it actually has the opposite effect. I think that the lovely term that I've heard a few times during the course of the day is that democracy is not inherently democracy affirming. And that was how I initially responded, is that I know how easy it is to use technology for the opposite effect. It can be very manipulative. It can be, you can use it to control, you can use it to actually decide what kinds of messages you actually want to put out there. So I think for me, what's important, okay, when looking at and selecting the kinds of technology affirming democracy initiatives would be to look at those that enable access, that enable engagement, that enable activism, not just in political processes, but in social change processes, in processes that actually enable us to grow and catch up with the rest of the world, particularly here in Africa. And technology initiatives and technology that enables the representation of minority voices, that actually democratizes technology itself, because I think we're a long way from actually achieving that on our continent. And ultimately, I think, I've learned a lot just from the speakers in the room today about ensuring that we are collaborating, that we actually are working together, that we're combining, technology. We're not actually coming at it from an individualistic perspective, but that we're actually looking at the greater good at the end of the day, in terms of what we can achieve with combining our ideas with technology to be able to ultimately improve the quality of life of people on the planet. So that's the angle that I'm coming at it from. I'm sure there are many, many others. And I think I'll learn a lot during the course of today, listening to these amazing tech entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. Daniel, actually, you might have come across some of these initiatives. So can you maybe tell us what sort of sectors, what sort of initiatives, what sort of solutions you've come across in the continent that give you hope?
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. So just based on my work in the continent, I've seen a lot of agri-tech initiatives. I've seen a lot of initiatives that really governments are trying to support the youth populace in getting jobs. So that's really where that intersection comes in, where you can use technology for good and ensure that, there's just this, like what you said, democratization of technology and ensuring that the person in the most rural area in a village gets access, right? So that's looking at also infrastructure. However, I'm going to bring it back home. I think everyone sitting here who is South African knows that GBV has been one of the biggest issues that we've dealt with in South Africa. And looking at the type of funding and investment that has come into play or question when it comes to addressing GBV. And I do believe that technology is certainly one way of attacking that and addressing that. So I have come across some, I think it's called Kwanele. And it's a platform that looks at addressing GBV. So there's some questionnaires that allow people to first, assess whether they are indeed in a situation that has a high propensity of you being a victim. So it starts with really the literacy, but then it also takes it a step further. So in South Africa, we found that there's a big gap when it comes to litigation from a criminal perspective. That initial phase is so important, getting the correct information, ensuring that everything is captured. If you've got a gap with that initial information or data collection phase, when it gets to the more mature stages of that particular case, you just lose everything because you don't have sufficient information, sufficient data. So I do believe that, creating homegrown solutions for the real problems on the ground is what Africa should be looking at and doing. And I think because these are, we don't really have legacy problems or legacy issues in Africa. We've got a whole lot of space to addressing these issues. I believe platforms like this one really are getting us to getting the correct solutions that are effective and sustainable. Yep.
Great. Okay, it's time. So I'm going to invite Annick Janssens to come up to the stage. She's the director of the IE's Entrepreneurship Center. She's going to explain the rules of the competition, explain the order of the startups, and she will introduce the startups. So good luck to everyone.
Can everybody hear me? A little bit taller than the average person here, I've been told. First of all, I hope you are all as excited as I am for this part. I'm not allowed to say, but this is always my favorite part, because I think the entrepreneurs are the people that bring innovation, that bring passion, and I want to thank you for making it so far. We have literally been traveling the world, scouring for startups that are improving democracy. And Africa, thank you. You've made my job a whole lot easier. Within, I think, 2 weeks of opening the application, we had over 100 applications. In the end, about 200 startups are working on this problem in Africa. So you made it here. We had an initial selection, we had a semifinal, so I'm very excited and very proud for you guys to be here. How it will work today, very simple. It's going to be a 5-minute pitch. Afterwards, our jury will have a 5-minute Q&A time. We are not taking questions from the audience because we have a cocktail after, and we always think that works better one-on-one, preferably with a delicious South African wine in your hands. So let's get started. The very first startup is of one of your own from South Africa. For something to be truly democratic, it needs to be accessible for all. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. The next startup is using technology to change that. So please give a very big applause to DevTouch.
So, connection is to communication what water is to thirst. I spent about 16 years of my corporate career in call centers, working for some of the leading insurance and financial institutes in South Africa, where I was fortunate enough to service the local and international markets. But whenever I needed to deal with a deaf customer, this transaction could never happen seamlessly. In fact, for a hearing person, a simple 20-minute phone call is a 3 to 5 day process for a deaf person. And that gave birth to our vision to connect the world to the deaf. So here at DevTouch, we design, create, and host advanced communication software that assists governments, businesses, and citizens across the world to connect so that they can communicate. My name is Clay Bonapis, and I'm the founder and CEO of DevTouch. Now, when we think about communication, there are more than 460 million deaf people worldwide that, because they use sign language, they are unable to effectively use telecommunication platforms to get their message across. That makes up for more than 5% of the world's population. But the challenge in the deaf community, as well as those with, living with disabilities, is that less than 30% have access. With technology seeing such a huge resurgence, technology has become a great platform for us to bridge this gap. So when we look at our market size, DefTouch is born of the confluence of the telecommunications and the accessibilities market, where our serviceable, obtainable market is more than $270 million US. Our solution is very simple. Much like you experienced just now, speak sign language. And we help organizations do so by hosting our voice, video, and text call distribution system that digitizes any call center platform, making a call center accessible, and now the deaf can simply, from their cell phones or any video-based dialer, contact the call center. It's simple. Download our app, create your profile, and get calling. But the way that you can call is that our service-side software is installed within a call center. Competitive advantage is quite simple. Standard software is based on voice-only solutions. DefTouch brings to market a comprehensive communication solutions where in fact these competitors become our customers simply because we've delivered a more comprehensive solution to accommodate for hearing, for blind, as well as for deaf clients. Revenue is quite simple. We sell our software on a license basis to call centers, but we also, and I've excluded it from here, have additional income streams through marketing platform, also creating our own call center, and then in addition to that, we also do recruitment services of deaf agents. Traction includes being now incubated at the Innovation Hub, as well as internationally at the Dongsheng International Incubator based in China. Last year, we became a partner to Microsoft. Thank you, Microsoft. And this year, we were able to finalize a deal with a global outsourced call center called StarTech. This now means that this company with more than 40,000 employees can employ deaf people, but also service the global deaf community. Our team is comprised of experts in the disability, telecommunications, the call center, and operations space to make sure that we are able to not only deliver on our mandate, but expand our company globally. We are currently looking for $125,000 that will be split into 3 projects. Number 1, it's to service our recently closed customer, StarTech. Then it's also to ensure that we are able to market adequately. And then we've also started developing a AI-based interpreter that is driven by AI as well as machine learning. You'll see a small clip and introduction to that shortly. And we are also looking for a telecommunications partner that will ensure that we are able to deliver our app and our solutions free to the deaf and blind end users. And there's our digital AI interpreter. So we would like you to join us on this journey of creating a truly inclusive world by ensuring that everyone is able to connect and communicate. Thank you.
Jerry, who wants to kick it off?
Well done for the pitch. Thank you very much. It was very interesting to understand significant population. I had 450 million people. 460 million people, thanks for that, in the world are deaf or partially deaf. And what I'm really trying to understand is a little bit more of unpacking on the product. And then the second part of the question is going to be to understand if you can unpack your service obtainable market, where that focus is. So firstly, on the product, am I understanding correctly that it's a sign language interface via video on your mobile phone with the hearing world? So with any other phone call or some other platforms where people would hear, this is an interface for that. If you can walk me through the user journey. And then secondly is the clients. Is it call centers, from an SOM perspective, is it that cater particularly for the deaf? Is it general call centers? You mentioned some competitors there. I'm trying to understand them, or is it directly to customers? If you can unpack that sum. Thanks.
Awesome. I actually like this question, and thank you very much for it. To take you through the user journey, I'm going to make a quick example, right? Could you go to your dialer on your phone very quickly? In the meantime, think of an emergency that you would need emergency service for. Let's call it the ambulance. What would that emergency be? 911, what's your emergency? Perfect. 911 call, you need to make that now, okay? Let's picture it's your wife that's in an emergency. You need to call them, dial 112. Dial 112. While you're dialing, my question is very simple. You must remember that you are deaf. Can you complete that call? No. That's exactly where Deaf Touch fills the gap. So you drop that call before there's an agent that answers it. But we firstly provide the software necessary for the deaf individual to call. They'll download a video-based dialer onto their cell phones, or they can also access it via a WebRTC link. That would give them a video-based dialer. We are then solving quite a few problems. Number one is the access. Number two, job creation for deaf people. That is simply because the employment rate is very low amongst the deaf community. Call centers in South Africa employ over 200,000 individuals, which now gives us the opportunity at scale to create jobs. That's where our governments come in. Once that is firstly downloaded, installed in a call center, which is one of our clients, but we are also looking to start our own call center because it is quite diverse in what we are able to offer as a business. You will then immediately on your phone have a dialer, and you will be able to access any call center based services that runs in our call center or who has our software installed within their call centers. And that brings me to the serviceable obtainable market, simply because South Africa is now the leading outsourcing destination in the world, above Philippines and India. Sorry, India. But that's simply because we are able to cater to a diverse audience. And with the introduction of DefTouch and our partnership with Start Tech, we are now able to actually scale from South Africa to the rest of the world simply from home. Because all that it would take is to learn to help our agents speak American Sign Language, British Sign Language, and all the other diverse sign language subsets. The other question, so it is SOM, the user journey. Cool, have I answered you?
We have time for one quick question.
I just wanted to understand what a bit more about your business model. So ultimately you're selling a software package to the call centers. What else do they need to be able to provide a service, to utilize and provide a service to their customers?
Good question. So they would need an agent who is deaf, trained up and skilled. That touches on the fact that we are also assisting the deaf community that have a low education level with skills development and training, and then also giving them a platform where they can actually have a job. So that I trust answers your question. Thank you so much.
I would say that was a great start. Thank you. Knowledge is power. The next startup created a platform to give people in South Africa access to financial education and services, which they have never had before, and very important, for a very affordable price. So please give a warm welcome to Legal Standpoint.
One of the biggest challenges in South Africa's legal sector is the inaccessibility of legal resources, which can be attributed to a number of factors. But the two overarching factors are firstly jargon-loaded legal texts on the one hand, which make it incredibly difficult to understand what the law is saying, as well as legal services that tend to be priced quite exorbitantly and are out of reach for a substantial number of South Africans. What ends up happening is that you have a situation where, in theory, the law applies to every facet of every person's life, but in reality, only a few people are able to readily access legal resources as and when they need to. This is always something that's frustrated me, so when I was studying law in my undergraduate, my co-founder and I came together with the idea of the Legal Standpoint app. Legal Standpoint is an app-centered legal tech startup that's working to democratize legal education and services. Our flagship app, which went live last year in September, functions as a learning platform and a legal marketplace to firstly help South Africans understand the law better through our library of easily digestible, multi-language gamified articles on the one hand, as well as to facilitate ease of access to independent lawyers and small law firms who tend to be more accessible in their pricing. Users are able to connect directly with lawyers in the app to get their documents reviewed, get legal advice, and also schedule in-app consultations. Users can also get legal documents from the app. In terms of our business model, it has 4 parts to it. The first one is a listing fee that we charge to the attorneys on our directory. The second is a commission fee that we charge for each transaction that's facilitated successfully through the app. The third is third-party sponsored content, where we curate content exclusively for third-party service providers that sell services that have some sort of legal implication. And the fourth one is an out-of-app service offering, where we curate legal startup packages and legal workshops for startups and entrepreneurs at various stages of their business. In terms of our competitors, Legal Standpoint competes with other edtech startups that provide legal education, like Legal Fundi. We compete with traditional law firms and consultancies that provide startup packages for startups and entrepreneurs. And we also compete with conventional directories like attorneys.co.za. But what makes Legal Standpoint stand out above the rest is that, firstly, as opposed to conventional directories that just list basic contact information, users can connect directly with lawyers in-app. Our articles are translated in multiple South African languages and they're gamified for maximum engagement. It takes less than 60 seconds to book a consultation on the app, which can be secured for as soon as the following day. And we're also really big on the transparency of fees, as opposed to conventional consultancies where they use a billable hours approach, which you then find out at the end how much you have to pay, which is like not so great. In terms of our market size, we're looking at a total addressable market of 1.3 billion, and that's just in South Africa, although there is an appetite for the app in other countries in the SADC region and also across Africa. In terms of the team, there's myself, I'm Kidumezi Pule, the Chief Executive Officer. I'm a full-time resource in the startup. We have our CTO, Garabo, who has more than 8 years of mobile app development experience, and he's worked in legal tech before, so there's perfect alignment. And then we also have an editorial team of more than 20 law students and graduates, and they create the content on the app for us. In terms of our traction, we went live with the app last year in September on the 23rd, so we're just under 6 months into having the app live. It's available now for download on the App Store, the Huawei App Gallery, and the Play Store. Our first transaction was recorded within 48 hours of going live. So far, we've recorded more than 1,200 signups, more than 14 verified lawyers, and more than 140 questions have been asked on the app. There's 200 articles that we've uploaded across 6 categories, and they've been translated in 3 languages. We've recently gotten into the Legal Tech Accelerator Fund for Law for All, so that's going to help us with niche-specific support and guidance. And then commercially, we've made $1,350 with a 45% return client rate and a 50% upsell conversion on our consultations. This is some of the feedback we've gotten.
I had some legal issues in relation to a company I started, and I tried going to pro bono services, but unfortunately they don't help in relation to companies, they only help individuals. And I tried contingency lawyers, but they would charge like 2,000 Rand for a consultation and up to 20,000 Rand for documents, which I could get from Legal Standpoint for less than 1,000 Rand. And their app made it so seamless and easy. Payment was a breeze, and the user interface looked amazing as well.
So that's Legal Standpoint. We're all about just leveraging technology to make legal resources more widely accessible and readily available to South Africans and eventually other countries. Thank you. I welcome any questions that you have.
Say this side gets to start this time around.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. You mentioned your competitors that are out there and your differentiation from that. How do you intend to stay ahead of those competitors? Because obviously, as you offer sort of services that they don't, barrier to entry for them may be quite low. So just curious to know how you stay ahead of the competition.
There's a multifaceted approach for us on that. I think the first one is speed, where we're trying to upload as many articles as we can on various aspects of the law, so different legal topics, and just beat them on speed. And then we also have quite a extensive product roadmap. So we're going to be launching other features. I don't know if I can disclose too much about that right now, but so other features that are just going to make it easy for people to access lawyers at any time, and that's going to be rolled out in the next 6 months, some of these like service offerings. I'm not sure if I can elaborate on that or not. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks. So I need you to just explain very simply what your product is. I'm torn between, are you dealing with lawyers, are you dealing with individuals, are you dealing with people who are starting up with companies and the article. So for instance, I think the question he asked now is quite relevant. If you look at the likes of clientele, legal-wise, etc., how would you compare yourself to that, and what are you offering, comparatively speaking?
Right. So we're offering a simple tool, firstly, because like our biggest thing is just being having easily digestible content on the app. So that's the first thing. And like you just said now, like it's confusing whether we address businesses or lawyers. We address both. So for lawyers, it's to help them access a wider pool of prospective clients. But for users, like I was saying earlier in the presentation, the law applies to every facet of everyone's life. So whether it's with your business or human rights or relationships, there's always an application for you on there. So it's just to make it as easy as possible to understand where the law stands on whatever issue you're facing. And then if you do need a lawyer, to be able to have that readily, that access quickly.
Sorry, one last question. How do you get your lawyers? How do you get them onto the platform? So the reason I'm asking is, just in this particular industry, it's quite difficult to retain lawyers because when it's a one-on-one, the commission is quite low. So how do you get someone who has qualified as an attorney to jump onto your platform and commit?
So we target specifically independent lawyers who are within like 1 to 5 years of having started, and normally they struggle actually when they're starting up their practices to connect with clients. So this tool is to make it easier for them on their side to have market access, and then I think also like the cost of setting up a law firm are quite high. So with this platform, it makes it easy to just eliminate all those costs of starting up, and it's just making it easy to just do it on your phone to have that consultation and legal advice and document reviews. Okay.
Thank you so much for your presentation. My question is around the 3 languages that you already translate to. I'm assuming it's in the South African context, and you spoke about going into other African countries. Which languages would that be? And what are the plans for your scalability purposes?
Yeah, so we're looking at other countries, like primarily in Africa, like the SADC region, that have a similar problem of legal accessibility. Zambia, we exhibited there last year at the Enact Legal Tech Startup. There's a huge appetite for what the app offers, and they also have quite a lot of languages in their country. Can't name them specifically right now, but in Kenya, if we were to go that side, because there's also an appetite, Kiswahili is one of the languages that we'd be onboarding onto the platform.
One more quick question.
So one last question. In the SADC region, South Africa is one of the most litigious countries, and platforms like these are quite lucrative. How do you convince people in countries like Zambia that are not as litigious as South Africa to use your platform?
Yeah, I think we'll have to figure that one out. I'm wary of just answering questions when I don't have the full context yet. But yeah, I think from what we experienced last year when we were exhibiting, there is a lot of presence of paralegals in the country, and they are quite there's a lot of, I don't know, the word that she just used now. But yeah, I think we just have to do more research and figure that one out. But yeah. Okay, cool.
Incredible. I first want to make a comment. Don't think that our jury is being rude. We have a digital voting system, so they are voting while they're looking at their phone. We're all good? Ready for the next one? Okay. Awareness is key in any problem and solution. And I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing it right. Ongea na democracia, which I've been told is speak with democracy, created digital spaces to synthesize citizens on the importance of democratic culture and digital democracy. They're creating digital spaces where people, where they're facilitating and empowering conversations. So please give him a very warm welcome all the way from Tanzania.
When we speak, do democracies listen? I think that's an important question that we all have. Right now, we are under the fourth industrial revolution, as well as the fourth revolution in terms of democracies, deliberate in terms of building consensus and having that decentralized opportunity to actually have a voice. Ongea Democracy was actually born out of pain in the 2020 season of COVID, where we also had an election in Tanzania. But we faced an issue where there was disenfranchisement of activism, of voices of the people, and I was among the people affected. So you understand the cost of actually having, being censored in a place that actually taught you what democracy means. So the problem that we saw is that populism is growing very fast, and technology and the internet can be used to abuse society when actually there is no awareness, there is no context, and there is no local experience on what it actually means. So through the COVID boost of so much engagement, governments actually using digital services to take to the people, people could not find the right interface to go there because you do not have the right of your voice. You're just getting there under the president of the populist leader. And when you have a populist leader forming centralization, I think it's very difficult for you to know the real nature of your thoughts and innovation. So for us as young people, 60% of Tanzania's young people, we are bold, we are brave, and we want to speak up. This is when Ongea Democracy came. Ongea Democracy means speak with democracy. And when we speak with democracy, I hope it is. So our solution is a SEMA platform. It's a digital platform that goes across mobile as well as web channels in pillars of informing, advocating, and collaborating. We want to inform society on objectivity. We want to advocate on campaigning on the democratic practices and also collaborate. Through information, we have an open forum of public commentary to the people, and we provide notifications on all the government proceedings that are going. Through advocacy, we have an event management feature that actually can boost the freedom of association of the people. Also, a community finance crowdfunding feature, because in our research, we understood that most people need the economic empowerment and the backing of a consolidated voice to actually collaborate. The business model is, first, we want to build an infrastructure of the internet as well as the cloud infrastructure, where we have done this with schools, with $99 per month. Also a commission on the transaction where actually people can consolidate their funds to create a project that's meaningful to them in their own narrative and their voices. For each event, we'll be taking $5, but we'll also be pairing people with activists as well as other voices. We stand on the pillars of universality, autonomy, as well as a stance in having a consolidated voice against any crimes that will go. And the premium model is especially for young people, where we want them to be the tipping point of their voices. Our go-to marketing strategy is having the same platform in a very easy advocacy campaign that actually speaks to the young people, to actually going to the grassroots level and finding the view and finding the solutions. And who do we want to target? We want to target the young active users in Tanzania, and maybe 1%, which is like 29,000 users. How? It's through local dissemination of our platform. Why do we want to do this? We want to sensitize the objective reality and the importance of a democratic culture, and we'll do this in 12 months. We are targeting 40% of premium users, 20% of civil society, because an active civil society stands for democracy. 15% is government, because government is the one that creates policy, that guides the infrastructure. International stakeholders in having the different perspective, and the private sector in pitching in a different perspective as well. This is the market validation. We have 26% of 3G and 4G services in Tanzania, 81% coverage, as well as 54 million users. So feature phones, mobile phones, as well as web penetration is big, and that is where we want to grow and groom ourselves. The competition we have is Ushahidi, Frontline SMS, Twaweza, but they do not actually fall in the line of offering a platform as a service. We want to offer a platform as a service that is all-inclusive in all these matters. Our attraction is through user acquisition. Right now, it's mostly through social media. We have partnership with Democracy Works Foundation, and our impact is actually creating digital democracy as a service to humanity. So we are creating a platform and infrastructure for all people to come and be interoperable as the element of the internet is. We are requesting $200,000 for funding, which will go in building the connectivity infrastructure, mostly dissemination of a very local multilingual approach, a way to reach feature phones, and also market penetration and research and development, which is a scarce thing to most of what we have, especially when it comes to democracy. So when I still ask you again, when democracy actually speaks, I hope you listen. This is the team. Catherine is our director. That's me. Bernard is a developer with over 5 years experience. We have a finance team, and Kevin Swai, who helped us in creating the interface, and our consultant, who is Dr. Jonathan Muringai, a PhD candidate. Thank you very much.
Who of the jury has a question?
Great, thanks. It's a very interesting concept. In terms of your platform, how do you ensure that it too is sort of democratic and that you don't potentially have sort of a bias with the sort of approach or information that is being provided? And the other thing is, do you see your platform as very much being a country-specific platform that you would roll it out as a sort of unit for each individual country, or do you really think that there will be a lot of cross?
Yes, first of all, our platform is based on mostly localization of the multilingual aspect of how people understand technology. So we are targeting all of the Swahili users that actually are democratic and who face the populist governments that has been rising throughout. So Tanzania is a use case, is a vivid example as a use case right now. And the main concept of building this, and based on the research that we had, we are falling on the principles of open access as well. So we have autonomy, secrecy when it comes to the users, but importantly is that we have the freedom of actually consolidating a voice together rather than standing alone, which is actually became very difficult and ends in a lot of risks.
Thanks for the pitch. Very interesting platform, and what I understand, which is sort of a clarification, it sounds social network-like, and maybe you can unpack that a little bit more, but it's a social network around the concepts of freedom of speech, activism, and progressive online communication and openness, etc. So that's one part of the question, is to understand, is that the fundamental? The second part is the genesis, story of this. How did this come about between the team? How did you guys come together to essentially put this into reality? So I'm very keen on how the idea came about and you guys started working on this.
The concept is actually creating a platform as a service first. A platform as a service with the features that can actually help crowdfunding, ideation, information, objective information, as well as collaboration among the people. That's it. And through the use cases, you can have communication, but mostly our government and CSO stakeholders are the ones who will be interacting to actually quantify and actually objectify through debate and dialogue what content goes there. And the public will have the option to poll and see through real-time mechanism what is actually needed and what are the outputs. In terms of the story, I have an experience in the Internet Governance Forum. So after I had troubles with some activism, Catherine had an NGO that deals with school connectivity. Through connectivity, we went to data research and we asked a simple question, with the changing regime, what do you feel is missing? And what was missing was actually the voice. You could feel the passion of the people, but they're afraid to speak. I was born in Tanzania with almost everyday democratic transition. So I was so proud to say that, I'm actually a product of this democracy. How come I am misunderstood? But I did not understand the way of putting collaborations and putting the stakeholders front and how we could consolidate the message. That's how it came about. And so we used the infrastructure as a service first, so we could actually have something out there to the people, the internet connectivity, and then they could actually make their own use cases. Because for me, I could have created something like a metaverse, but they actually said that this is what we need, this is what's important. And the important thing was the voice. Because in the end, as Nelson Mandela said, democracy and human rights are inseparable. And for me, I think it's a human characteristic to be free and have your voice heard.
I think the ambition is amazing, but how are you going to ensure that it actually doesn't become yet another metaverse and it isn't controlled by very strong voices guiding what happens in the background? How are you going to democratize the platform and keep it that way over a period of time?
Thank you very much. And part of the features that we want to build is we want to create a decentralized autonomous organization through blockchain. This will include the government, CSOs, and active users as well, with equal sharing opportunity, visualizing each and everybody to see how the decisions are made. As I said, in the fourth wave of democratization, we are going to deliberately move on the consensus mechanism. And through blockchain and actually localizing these emerging technologies with use cases where we can actually have verification and the security by design is the way we can actually ensure that everybody is heard in a very open and secure manner.
Great pitch, congratulations. Okay, now we are going to try to walk our own talk. Our next contestant, due to some visa issues, could not make it in person, so we're going to be very modern and zoom him in all the way from Ghana. They're fighting exclusion. They are promoting democracy by providing a verifiable digital identity and simplifying the access to critical government and financial services. Please give them a very, very warm welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Oswald. I am the founder and CEO of FloodGates, and our mission is to advance our world through digital solutions. Millions of people are excluded from governance processes due to centralization of government services. Digitalization appears to solve this problem, but there is a greater risk of the systems being untrustworthy due to their susceptibility to identity fraud, security breaches, and disinformation. Democracy is reliant on the trust of the people in the foundational pillars of our society. This means that any threat to representation, access, and participation of the people is a threat to democracy. Our solution to this problem is Trustur, a borderless digital identity ecosystem which connects individuals to government services and more. Trustur allows for the issuance and verification of digital ID credentials, secure authentication through biometrics, a digital forms marketplace which provides access to thousands of forms and payments from service providers, as well as credit and discounts from our partners. Why now? There has been a boost in digitalization worldwide recently, as well as national and international digital ID programs, which are creating a massive need for online security and data protection services. The emergence of innovative technologies such as face and fingerprint recognition, blockchain and smart contracts, public key infrastructure, and AI machine learning have made it possible to build highly secure and reliable services that foster trust. Markets and marketplaces the digital identity market size at $27.9 billion currently, and predicts that it will reach $70 billion by 2027. Our goal is to capture at least $5 billion of this by 2030 through government services, financial services, telecommunications, and more. Our commercial model covers both individuals and businesses. We charge users 30 cents per form processed, 3% on approved credit, and offer a premium subscription at $3 per month. For businesses, we charge $10 per admin per month, or enterprise fees from $30,000 to $500,000 and above. Our operating costs are less than $50,000 per year, and we are projected to make over $57 million over the next 3 years. This revenue will come from form fees, commissions on credit, and premium subscriptions. We are differentiated from our competitors through our ecosystem approach to digital identity and business services. Comparing Trustur with YouVerify, Smile Identity, and My Identity Pass, we all offer KYC checks and authentication. However, Trustur goes ahead to provide an identity network, digital ID issuance, a forms marketplace, as well as access to credit and discounts from our partners. We have achieved a lot since commencing business in 2020. Through 2021, we developed our product and science strategic partnerships. In 2022, we built proof of concept trials with government services and financial services. 2023 marked our launch, and we currently have over 2,000 users in 14 countries, as well as 158 service providers being onboarded. We have the Trustur app on iOS and Android, a management portal for businesses, and API services for integrations with existing software. Our strategic partnerships have given Trustur a head start in the market. These include the National Information Technology Agency of Ghana for authentication with government services, LVS Africa, Stanbic Bank of the Standard Bank Group, ARB Apex Bank, a body of 146 rural and community banks in Ghana, the Federation of African Law Students with over 30,000 members across Africa, Microsoft for Startups Founders Hub, and many more in the pipeline. Our go-to-market strategy is to partner with government services and identity authorities, financial institutions, telecoms, and other critical services. We currently do direct business development and are planning to add digital and traditional marketing channels as well. Based on our projections and strategy, we will hit the 100 million user mark in 5 years with over 10,000 businesses on our platform across the world. We are a sharp and dedicated team coming together from backgrounds of software engineering, banking, logistics, business administration, accounting, law, and project management. We have a current total staff of 14 and 4 members in the executive team and are guided by an advisory board comprised of highly experienced and awarded giants in industry. We have bootstrapped for the past 3 years and are looking to raise $2 million for operations, product development, sales and marketing, team development, and scaling. Ladies and gentlemen, we must ensure the preservation and promotion of democratic values in the digital age by building these principles directly into digital systems. Trustur will spur governments and systems towards stronger democratic values by improving representation and access to government services, reduce application and processing time for services from weeks to minutes, enforce anti-corruption and anti-exclusion rules, and provide economic empowerment through access to business and financial services. Help us strengthen democracy across the world with Trustur. Thank you very much.
Congrats on the amazing pitch and for technology holding up. Jury, if you talk into your mics, we will be able to hear your questions.
Thanks. I'm really interested to know your process of verification of an individual's identity and what that costs you, how you achieve that.
Okay, thank you very much. So when a user creates their account on our app, we immediately send an OTP to verify their phone number. We also verify their email addresses, and then we verify their employment. We are currently connected to the government employment system and are able to verify a government employee in less than 5 minutes, which is not done, and there's no technology available to do that at the moment. After verifying your employment, if you're on our systems, then we also go ahead to verify addresses, because this is provided. We then connect to the national ID database to check your national identity card. So Trustur doesn't just rely on the information and data that we have. We also rely on the national identity authorities and other identity authorities to verify additional credentials that you have added to this. Based on all of these costs, it costs us a few cents to verify ID cards with a national identity provider, to verify other credentials. But the total cost for verifying a single person on our platform is less than 50 cents.
Great, thanks. And do you use specific biometrics? You know,
yes,
how does your client know they're dealing with the right person?
Yes. So our authentication service is based on facial recognition and public key infrastructure. We are connected to the National Public Key Infrastructure System, which creates a security and encryption codes for each citizen who has a national ID. Based on this, when there are communications between a service provider, whether the government service or a private provider, and a person, when a request comes in, for example, if they want to submit a document or if they want to submit a form, they either scan their face with their face profile or they scan their fingerprints. And once that is provided, then we are able to match these against the databases, authenticate the person together with the key, the special key that was saved on their mobile device, and then submit the message and the verification details to the service provider.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I've got 2 quick questions. The one was around the success of the users. You spoke about the 2,000 individuals and over 100 institutions that have used this. So what does that look like? And then secondly, it's just to clarify. So is this a standalone platform where the clients can come through and use that as verification for whatever process that people are applying for? Or are you looking to integrate with some of the existing technology with the state and the banks, etc.? Maybe just help clarify that point, please.
Yes. So our service went live with our new services in January, and we have over 2,000 users in 14 countries. The reason why we've been able to travel across and internationally is mainly because of the Federation of African Law Students, who use this identity system to verify everyone who is registering from any country, verify that they are attending the school that they attend, and also to issue a digital ID which sits on their device that they can use to access and attend events and offers from the Federation of African Law Students. We also connect, on your second question, connect to the government infrastructure. For example, we are connected to the National Information Technology Agency, the National Public Key Infrastructure, Identity Verification, and a lot of other verification services with the government. We're also connected to the government employee service to be able to verify people. So we are not only connected to these services. In terms of banking and financial services, we also connect to the banks. We connect to the Credit Bureau of Ghana that collects credit information to verify credits, and a lot of other services, both locally and internationally.
Hi, thank you. Quick question from my side. You had a graph just showing growth in service providers over the next couple of years. Tell me a little bit about some of the sort of the challenges that you are expecting or you see lying ahead of trying to get those service providers on board.
Let me start by talking about when we began in 2020. We created an authentication system that could connect to any software that a service provider had. And when we went into the market, we started to learn that most service providers do not have adequate software to manage and to connect to manage their processes. And so we didn't have any software to connect to. Then we had to create our own software, which we give to service providers, which they can install on their services, and then we can connect with. That's one of the main challenges that we have had. Also, because for the lack of these services, we created a forms service, which we call our forms marketplace. And in the forms marketplace, any business can simply onboard themselves, take their paper forms, which they use, and then digitalize them and recreate a form online, and then request that various verification credentials should be processed before that form is completed. Those are some of the challenges that we have with service providers. Going forward, we believe that one of the challenges that we might encounter is with working with service providers is training. And because of this, we are actually looking to create a major training program, various training programs with various service providers, so that we can onboard them onto our platform and they can take full advantage of all the services that we have.
Thank you so much. That's all the time that we have. Okay, last but definitely not least, the least. The youth are our future. I don't think I have to tell that standing in an incredible university like this. But this couldn't be more true on the subject of governments. The next startup created a social network platform to bridge the gap between the decision makers and the youth, ensuring all voices are heard and creating meaningful engagement. Please give a very warm applause all the way from Kenya, Uamuzi.
Okay, I can proudly stand here and say that Kenya, we have one of the most progressive constitutions, not only in Africa, but in the world. Public participation, access to information, and freedom of speech, they're all enshrined in our constitution. And as you know, we normally use the traditional means of public participation, where people have to go and sit in open spaces such as this. People have to go sit in open barazas where they can be able to discuss on issues. So back in campus, I thought to myself, together with my friend, why don't we come up with a digital solution that will give every single person an opportunity to be able to be part of decision-making process at their convenience. And that is how, and because we use the traditional means, not many people get to participate in a decision-making process. And this is because of factors such as distance, age, gender, time, religion, disability, and even political party affiliation. So we decided to come up with a digital space called Uamuzi, where we'll be able to give every single person an opportunity to be part of the decision-making process at their convenience,
they can be able to access information, and they can also be able to give their opinions and feedback. Uamuzi is a Swahili word that translates to decision in English. So during sign up, when users sign up on our platform, they put their details where they registered as voters. And because as a country we have the decentralized system of governance where we have the national and the county government, the users can be able to, they can be able to engage with the leaders, and also they can be able to engage among themselves. So with Uamuzi, some of our main features are in Swahili. One, we have uongozi, which means leadership. Two, we have baraza, which means assembly. We have tubonge, which means let's talk. And we have mulika, which means light up or gleam. We decided to do this because the African Union passed Swahili as the main communication language in Africa. So for us to use Uamuzi, and because we not only want to use this platform here in Africa, but we also want to use it in other countries in the world, we decided to use Swahili because we wanted it to have the African touch, the African feel in it. So Uamuzi, we're developing it using blockchain and artificial intelligence, which, as you know, is the future of technology. And because of this, one, personal and sensitive data is going to be decentralized. Users are going to have full control of their data, which is they're going to have greater privacy. We are going to have the absence of third parties. We are using peer-to-peer protocol, end-to-end encryption, and also the users will have an opportunity to express themselves freely. Under Uamuzi, as you know, as you saw on the first slide, our slogan is governance and peace building. But governance, we used the 4 pillars of sustainable development, which is social governance, environmental governance, political governance, and economic governance. So with our feature, the first feature that we use called assembly, which is baraza, the users can be able to engage not only amongst themselves, but they can also be able to engage with their leaders. And they can be able to, with the platform, they can be able to give diverse opinions. They can be able to engage on policy formulation, planning and implementation, and they can also be able to advocate for change amongst themselves. Two, we are going to use the platform to be able to educate the users. We are going to use a continuous methodology, and also we are going to use a targeted methodology, because we want the users to be able to get to know about their roles, their responsibilities, and also their rights. Three, we also have we are doing leadership. Leaders can be able to engage on the platform with their constituents, and also when leaders sign up on the platform, they'll be able to upload the manifesto. And using the manifesto, we are going to use it to keep these leaders accountable. And also, it's going to be a cheaper means of the people to be able to advocate for change. We're also doing environmental conservation, where we are advocating for clean campaigns. And also, the users can be able we are going to educate people on climate change, mitigation, and also how they can cope with it. And also, the users can be able to discuss on environmental policies and laws. Also on peace building, with our platform called Mulika, the users can be able to report on violence and other incidences that are happening around them in real time. They can be able to tell us the level of threat of what is happening, and they can also be able to pin the location where this is happening. This is our platform Uamuzi. Karibu means welcome, and also that's the layout of our platform. So for the user attraction, 75% of our population in Kenya is made up of the young people. And we are going to get our users from tertiary institutions, that is universities and colleges. We have a plan where we are, together with like-minded stakeholders, we are going to go to tertiary institutions, that is universities and colleges. We are going to talk to them about leadership. We are going to talk to them about peace building, and also we are going to introduce the platform to them. Our business model is one, we are going, the leaders, as they sign up on the platform, they'll be able to pay. And this is a way of verifying the accounts, so that we can be able to do away with misinformation and disinformation, which are normally seen on these other platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. We are also going to make money through bulk messaging, where, as you know, bulk messaging is a short way of sending information to the people. We are also making money through sponsored ads and also through surveys and polls. Uamuzi, we have a team. We have a team. I'm the founder and CEO, but we have the corporate affairs team. We have the legal team. We have the finance team, the technology team, and also the social affairs team. In conclusion, as you know, Kenya, we are known globally because of the innovations that come from our country. Because of this, Uamuzi is locally made, is locally owned, and is locally managed. And also, too, Kenya is really known, technology is really growing in Kenya, and we plan to make Uamuzi the first social platform from Africa to take over the world. Thank you.
Sorry, got to keep it straight, even at the end.
I'm sorry about that.
Not at all. Who wants to start the last round of questions?
Thank you very much for the pitch. Congratulations. Quick one, I understand, social networking platform for decision making, particularly local governance.
Yes.
How are you ensuring that the decisions and outputs that come out are going to be trusted by those whom the decisions will affect? In other words, local governance.
Thank you for that. As I told you before, we are using blockchain. So with the blockchain, we don't have third parties. So every single user who posts anything there, it will be verified because it's going to be coming from them, and also for the users because they have to pay for them to get access to the platform. Then it means that we are going to verify the accounts. So any information that comes from an account that is from a leader, will be verified because they'll have paid for that.
If I may follow on, which is two challenges that I'm particularly wanting to follow on with questions on is the conversation we had earlier was the people that are governing these technologies, particularly cutting edge, like blockchain, and the people that would therefore need to take on these decisions. How much do you see that they would buy in to the concept of blockchain, and them therefore in understanding it willing to take on the decision that would come up? So I see there would be an adoption challenge. If you can talk me through your adoption strategy.
For adoption, we are still in the process of working on the blockchain. We are still consulting with a few people about that. But we've been able to sell this idea to a few people in the government. We are currently working with the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association, and we are also working with the Kenya Young Member of County Assembly, and we are able to sell this idea to them. As you know, the current social media platform, they use the centralized means of storing data, which for them, they sell people's data, and also they use the people's account to be able to manipulate them. So with us, because we are going to have a greater privacy, then it means that the people who are going to use the platform, they have already bought into the idea, and they're also in the process of buying into it.
Okay, just to, I think, bootstrap on the previous question. So you're the only founder of the company, and you've got different divisions. Yeah. Generally, investors are looking for people who've got at least 2 or more people who are in decision or leadership positions. The departments that you currently have, how much influence they have on your decision-making, on opinions, and the growth and strategy of your company?
Okay, so we have a team that is I'm working with, and also we have a governing body that will any decision that we make under the company they have to oversee whatever the decision we're making. Yeah.
We have time for one more short question. All good?
Two questions. The first one is, why would people pay? What will compel people to actually be a subscriber on your platform? Maybe you can answer that one first.
Okay. Very good question. You see, for example, on Twitter, normally people build their audiences, their users over time. And for example, I opened my account maybe 10 years ago. I was in school. So during that time, I left school. When I opened my account, I had my colleagues, my fellow students who joined my platform. Then I leave there, I go to the job market, I get people that my colleagues join my platform, and probably in the 10 years, I have probably 100,000 users on my platform. And when you look at leadership, all these 100,000 people are never there. When you use your platform to campaign, these people are never your constituents. These people are your friends, your colleagues, and also your family members that you've been building over time. So with our platform, once you sign up as a leader, for example, I want to run for a seat in Nairobi County. So once I sign up as a constituent, I can either sign up as a leader or as an incumbent or as an aspirant. And when I pay, I'll have access to the same constituents as all other leaders. So basically, you're going to get access to your constituents and not just any other people like your friends, your colleagues, and also your family members. Yeah.
Okay, that's all the time that we have. Big applause. Guys, this was it. These were all the finalists from Africa. Can I get a very big applause for our incredible jury and our incredible jury? I'm going to ask, if the jury can make sure to fill out the last feedback forms and take a seat back where you started. Then I want to invite Carlos back on the stage for the prize.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the fantastic presentations. Before announcing the winner, I'd like to say a few words. I'll be brief. Today marks indeed the end of these regional competitions in Madrid, in Bogota, in Stanford in the US, in India and Delhi and here. But this journey does not end here. We are building an ecosystem of companies, of startups, of businesses, of governments and organizations from the civil society with the objective of promoting democratic values and using technology to reinforce democracies, right? And I'd like to thank Melvin for pointing out that this journey does not end here, especially for those companies that are not going to win tonight, because you're already part of an ecosystem and we want to work with you, we want to work with even the semi-finalists that are not here today. So we'll be in touch. This has been great. Thank you so much to the Department of State and for especially the D School for kindly hosting the event, and obviously to Microsoft for their continued support. Congrats to all the startups, the ones that made it to final and the ones that didn't. I want to remind everyone that all the finalists here have already won because they've won they will receive up to $150,000 in cloud credits, productivity software. They'll be in touch with the university for programs on mentoring and incubation. And the winner will compete in Washington, D.C. against the other 4 continental winners at the end of this month at President Biden's Summit for Democracy. So I have here the name of the winner. So I will announce it. Good luck to everyone. And the winner is FloodGates from Ghana. Can we have, congratulations. I'm gonna ask a representative from FloodGates, Nyasha Mpani, to come on the stage. Congrats for the... Well, thank you, everyone. Let's enjoy a cocktail. Congratulations to the winner and to the finalists, and see you all in Washington, D.C.